we're going to go through the listening process. Many times when you teach communication, you spend most of the time on the speaker side of the communication model. And we need to make sure we understand that the listening process and the feedback process is 50% of the communication model. So we're going to go through a few things, but you need to listen carefully because some of the things I'm going to tell you, don't take notes on. It's just for your clarification. Okay. For example, the steps to the listening process. We're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to prepare to listen, personalize the message, understand the message, select ideas, and provide feedback. All you need to do on these steps is just, whoops, some kind of jump there, is to just write down what is in the heading, all right? All right. When you're preparing to listen, you're trying to figure out what you're considering, what you should consider to listen to. If you're just having a casual conversation, all of us have had opportunities or have had instances, I guess, where we have zoned out. When you're talking about preparing to listen, that's when you know that the information that you're going to be receiving is important. If you go to college and you're sitting in a huge lecture hall and you go to biology class, you need to prepare to listen, because you know that the information that you're going to be that they're going to share with you is eventually going to be tested. So when you come to class, you have to prepare, and you need to set yourselves in a situation where you're prepared to listen. Sit where you can hear, where you're comfortable, where you're not going to be distracted. Okay? The second step is to personalize the message, which means, does this apply to me? Do I believe what the speaker is saying? Can I use the information? If you personalize the message and you can't use the information, we'll forget it, okay? And a lot of times, if you disagree with it, you don't remember it as well. The third step is understanding the message. Did you get new ideas and information, and are you going to likely remember them? And did you learn any new words, and what did the person's body language convey? If you don't understand the message, you won't be able to listen, and you won't be able to understand. And so this is really, it's very important to learn to become a speaker, provide feedback to the speaker saying, hey, I don't understand this. And this is the stage, excuse me, that we teachers really need you to understand that if you don't understand what we're saying, you need to provide us feedback, either through raising your hand or coming in and asking a question, or that quizzical look that's often on many of your faces. All right. Selecting ideas. This is kind of like choosing what is important to remember. And this is where you have to learn a filter. I think one of the great things about cameras nowadays is we know that there are lots and lots of filters. And those filters can make our pictures look funny. We all love Snapchat filters. But it's the same thing when we're listening. We have to start figuring out what is important to listen to and what's not. Oh, there goes Mrs. Amble on another story. Probably not important to listen to. Oh, that sounds like a main idea. I better jot that down. That's selecting the ideas. Okay. There's that providing feedback. Going back to understanding, how can you provide the speaker the necessary feedback for them to adjust their message if they need to? Are you responding verbally or non-verbally so that they either get the message that, yep, I understand what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying, or I don't get it, or I disagree. Maybe you need to ask a question, and when they're all the way done, can you summarize what they've been saying? So those are the stages of listening. And normally we would have you watch this TED Talk, but I discovered that it was no longer online, so that's okay too. So we are going to listen to this video in class. It's sometimes difficult to watch a video inside a video, but the Supreme Court justices, whose job is to be a professional listener, kind of weigh in on how they do that. Okay. So the last little bit in our notes are the blocks to listening. What prevents you? What puts up a wall for your listening? Now remember, we're not talking about the type of listening you do in informal communication when you're at your locker or you're around the dinner table or whatever. We're talking about formal communication. So block number one is daydreaming. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems that we have in school is that our attention span doesn't allow us to kind of focus in on what is being said. Second, being closed-minded, which means that because you don't agree with what the speaker is saying, you just shut them down. Okay? Oh, they're wrong because this is what I believe. Third, distractions. I would say on top of daydreaming, distractions is probably the biggest. People walking by the classroom, a buddy sneezing, somebody fidgeting in their chair. You're distracted because you know you didn't get your vocabulary done, and so you're constantly trying to finish it, so if the teacher doesn't notice. You're sleepy, you're hungry. All of those are distractions. Number 4, misreading the cues. This has to do with the communication model. You might think that the speaker is done speaking and providing the message, and so you misread the cues, so you start to talk, and then you missed what they said. Or you misread the cues that the speaker the message maybe seemed like it wasn't very important, and you misread it, so you kind of didn't stop to understand. You didn't select. You didn't do all of the things that were the steps to listening, so you misread those cues, and all of a sudden the message was gone. Okay. Number 5, listening to only what is easy to understand. Now this is something I really get because in a math class I frequently found myself very struggled a lot with understanding, and because I couldn't understand, I stopped listening, and it just created a cycle where I struggled in math. But when I got to a concept in math that I understood, that's what I listened to, but I didn't listen to the tough stuff. And when speakers use vocabulary that is difficult for us, they use concepts that we don't quite understand, we have a tendency as human beings to shut down, and that ends up being a block to listening. And that never allows us to move forward if all you ever listen to is the stuff you already know or the stuff that's already easy to understand. How are you supposed to grow as a learner and as a human being? And overemphasizing the source. This has to do with the speaker itself. Overemphasizing the source is like, well, my dad said, and because you love your dad and you respect him and believe everything that he says, as we should, that sometimes that might overshadow what somebody else is saying. Or if you are Fox News said this, and you overemphasize the source of Fox News to the point that you don't listen to what other news media says. It is putting so much emphasis on the person or the source that's given it that you fail to listen to other advisors. Okay, I think that is it, because you did for class your survey. So again, prepare to listen, personalize that message, understand that message, select the ideas, and provide feedback. And remember that there are blocks to listening, like daydreaming, distractions, being closed-minded, misreading the cues, and overemphasizing the source, and listening to only that which is easy to understand. Tomorrow you will have a check over your notes, so I hope you get these done. Talk to you later.